So let's take a minute. We're just going to arrive. Just kind of take a deep breath. Sense yourself in your seat. Place your hands on your lap, or if you have an armchair, you can place them on your arm, on the arm there. Take a deep breath and sending the breath down into your belly. Just arrive here in this space. Tapping your feet on the ground. Since we're talking about Virgo season, we're going to be talking about the earth, the element of the earth, which I need desperately in my life. Okay. All right. So now I want to introduce you to my great friend, Joanna. I know a lot of you already know her, and Joanna, I want to make sure I say your last name correctly. Stiefel, right? Stiefel. Because I lived in Germany and I like to show that off. But Stiefel. But yeah, it's Stiefel. Okay.
That's more than Americanized.
I like to add flair to things. I don't know.
I love it, Tony. I love it.
That's fun, right? I'll add some sort of flair to everybody's name. It's hilarious. Okay, so Joanna is the owner of Beautifully Chaotic Mamas, and this is a transformational and healing coaching business that helps. And she helps her customers move from a chaotic, stressed existence into a grace-filled and fulfilling life of their dreams. And I love this description of you as part fairy godmother. She's got her little fairy godmother thing going on. Preacher, storyteller, shamanic astrologer, and healer, Joanna. I love everything that you do. So tell us a little bit more about what you do.
So, yeah, I'm kind of a little bit of everything, but I really have been stepping into this role of astrology. And part of what I do with my community is we do a weekly tea time, because I love like drinking tea and taking a break. All about self-care, all about having some fun, being playful, and really looking at those energies. So that's one of the like free offers that I give to my community, and we kind of tune into the energies. Very basic. I'm very practical when I talk about my astrology and really work with the elements. That's what we're going to be talking about today, is really bare bones, looking at where my Virgo placements, where Tony's Virgo placements are, and then what our elemental breakdown is.
Fabulous, fabulous. And I love that you said very practical, because that's very much a Virgo word.
Yes, very Virgo.
Very Virgo. I love it. The very Virgo. And I have to say, like, Virgos, I just absolutely, like, I have a special place in my heart for Virgos, since my wife is Virgo, and most of the teachers that I learn a lot from are Virgo people. So I appreciate them, because they have a way of just making information like turning information that's out here that comes from the Gemini, sort of like I'm accumulating all sorts of stuff, and they condense it and make it practical. So it's a skill that I need.
That's the difference between like a Mercury Gemini and a Mercury Virgo. Very much so. Very much
right.
So. Virgos tend to analyze the data. Virgos or Geminis kind of come up with the data. That's how I talk about that placement, those two placements. And both signs, their ruling planet is Mercury.
I love it. And yeah, because Mercury just likes to learn lots of stuff, be out there connecting, and I know with Gemini, it's more about connecting and figuring out all of the different, accumulating knowledge. And yeah, I love that the Virgo was like, okay, what can we do with this? How can we make it practical? Make it make sense for other people.
Earthbound. Yeah.
So I'm so excited you're here with us today. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to turn it over to you.
All right. I'm very Virgo, detailed oriented, want to to do some, multi-learning avenues here. So I'm going to be doing a presentation. Let me see. All right.
And
So
this also, you guys, so Virgo. Like I have a presentation. It's free here. I've taken all the material and whoop.
Very techy too. Very techy with that Mercury placement too. Okay, so today I'm going to share a little bit about my attention to details and how I provide service into the world, and give you a little taste of my medicine. And so I just loved how Tony grounded us. We're going to do a little bit more grounding because, hey, we're in the earth element. So I also, very Virgo, have an agenda. This is what we're going to be doing today. First, we're going to start with breath work because I always start with breath work with my clients. It really just helps to ground us into the present moment. It grounds and centers us. Then I will be calling on the elements, since we're going to be working with the elements and the directions today, and really call them in for support. This is one of my alchemist ways of really setting the container. Then we'll talk about why I'm a Virgo expert and some background about Virgo. We will also then be looking at Tony and I's charts, looking at our Virgo placements and elemental breakdowns. Then I will close out space because I'm very much like a ceremonialist, ritualist, that I want to hold that container for the learning. And then I'll close out our container. Before I close out our container, we'll have that space for some Q&A. And then I'll share at the end ways to connect with me and a juicy other workshop that I have going on next week. So we're just going to breathe. And this is what I call the power of 3 breath. And one of my beautiful mentors, I kind of adapted this from a breath work that she does with her community. So you can just sit back and relax, elongate your spine. And so I'll walk you through the 3 breaths. If you want to close your eyes, you can close your eyes. If you don't have to. So the first breath is the breath of the past. So anything that has happened prior to this session, anything that is drawing your attention away from this present moment, anything of the past that's not serving of this session, we're just going to think about those things on the inhale and release them on the exhale. So inhale and exhale. And so our next breath is the breath of the future. So things that are on our never-ending to-do list, events that take place after the session, anything of the future is not serving of the session. We're just going to think about those things on the inhale and release them on the exhale. So inhale and exhale. And the last breath is the breath of the present moment, the eternal now, the only true moment that we have. And so this breath is a little bit different. We just really inhale and savor this shared breath together. And then on the exhale, we release with the sound of ah, which is the sound of the goddess. So inhale and exhale. Ah. And so you can just stay seated at back. And if you want to close your eyes, you may close your eyes. If you want to watch what I'm doing, we're going to start in the east because that's where the sun rises. And we're going to call on the element of air. And in doing so, we're going to use this beautiful bell. And I love to work with angels. So the guardian here is Archangel Raphael, who is the healing angel. And we call on him to help us in our mental realm. This is where the air is, the mental realm resides in the air realm. So we ask for opening to new knowledge, clearing any negative beliefs, opening to new thoughts, new ways of thinking. Thank you. The direction is the east and the element of air. Then we will move on. Beautiful candle here into the south. the element of fire. And here our beautiful archangel guardian is the Archangel of Michael, who is the protector angel. We call on his support, protecting this circle, protecting this gathering space for all those that are here in this moment and those that are on the replay. Thank you to the element of fire and the direction of the song. We move on to the west and the element of water. Here we have this beautiful vessel of water. Our guardian here is Archangel Gabriel, the messenger angel. So we ask for these waters to be healing waters to help cleanse, clear, and transform our emotions. Allow them to flow freely and beautifully like that of a peaceful river. Element of water. And I have a beautiful Archangel Gabriel crystal here for our element of earth. So the north, we call in the north an element of earth, and Archangel Uriel, which this archangel's name means God's light. And here in the north is really that time of day of midnight. So we have this beautiful lantern of Archangel Uriel to shine light through the darkness, to help us to uncover those beautiful gems, just like the crystals that are buried deep into the earth, help guide our path through the darkness with light. Thank you to the element of north. All right, and then we'll call in the direction of the below. This is Mother Earth, our planet. So we just ask for her support, her nourishment and nurturance from below, holding the space from below. And the archangel that it resides here as the guardian is Archangel Sandalphon. And Archangel Sandalphon is the beautiful angel who really takes our prayers up to the heavens and brings us our abundant blessings. So we say gratitude to Mother Earth and Archangel Sandalphon for holding this container from below. Then we move to the above, to where Creator is, source light. And here we have the support of Mother Mary, Grandmother Moon, all celestial beings. We're going to call on the constellation of Virgo, the archetype of Virgo here in the skies. The guardian here that chooses to step forward is Archangel Raziel, which is the magician angel. And he really helps with esoteric knowledge, really helping us to open up to the ways of the universe. Then we call on Center. And here is the beautiful Archangel of Metatron. And that's what we're doing. We're calling on all the directions, calling on this support of the Metatron's cube. So we ask Metatron to activate this. And here at the center is where Spirit resides. We call on the Holy Spirit, Great Spirit, the breath of life, the movement of life here. Activate this cube for healing and teaching and wisdom and messages that come forward. Help support those who are on this call live and on the replay. Thank you. All right. See if I can find the comments.
That was fabulous.
You're welcome. I always love to, start with that and really bring that energy in. I just love doing that. So you have eye on the chat, right, Tony?
I do, yeah.
I can't see. So if you want to, is there anything?
There's nothing right now. Just a bunch of hellos. Hello, everybody.
Hello, everybody, and welcome.
I think everybody was kind of like, and whoo, happy.
Bringing us to a new dimension. I love that.
I know, I needed it.
All right. So here's just some fun facts about Virgo, and Tony, please do add anything more. So it's the sixth sign of the zodiac, which means it's the ruler of the sixth house. And so the sixth house is really about health, wellness, and daily routine. These are tasks that Virgo really likes to look at. One of the things that I kind of bring forward with this is really looking at wholeness, looking at health, not just on the physical level, but also on the mental, emotional level, also and spiritual level. We talked a little bit early on about its ruling planet being Mercury, and Mercury is in charge of communication, health, and tech. It's so funny when I was gathering my supplies, I was like, why does Gabriel want to come forward? Why do I want to burn incense that has to do with the throat chakra? I'm like, I don't know what's going on. And then Mercury's like, duh, you're coming on to communicate and teach. So I'm like, okay, now it makes sense.
I love it.
Yeah. Oh, there. Now I found the chat. I'm all good. There we go.
Yay!
Got my talk working great. So now I was gonna pause here when we talked about the ruling, because I saw when you were doing the and both Tony and I have Mercury in Virgo. So when you were doing the advertisement, you were talking about Mercury retrograde, which is coming up at the end of Virgo season, which I didn't know that until I looked it up for the call.
Oh, good, good. And I don't track them. I just kind of like go, oh, Mercury must be retrograde right now. So I'm like, oh, there it is.
Yeah. So you were saying, like, with you having that Mercury placement, when you go through retrograde, what is that experience for you, Tony?
It's really, really, really interesting. I have to say that I don't necessarily notice the Mercury retrograde on a personal level. I'll notice it with other people more. But whenever Mercury is having a transit with Neptune, that's when I really, really feel it. So it's sort of interesting.
Yeah, I learned about Mercury retrograde when I was in college, and I thought my teacher was kind of woo woo when she was telling me about this, and she was very like hard ass about it. She's like, I never make a paper due during that time. Please don't try to contact me during this time. She had it on her business card when Mercury was in retrograde, and I was like, what the heck? And then as I learned more about Mercury in retrograde, I really feel like it's just this like natural way of really slowing down. I always look at the retrograde as a time to do the re's of really relaxation, reevaluating, very like a lot of Virgo tasks, really, to be honest. And now that I know, like, oh, Mercury retrograde's coming up, it's like it's a time for retreat for me. And when I actually kind of take that time, and it's like usually what, like a 2 week span of time.
Yeah, 3 weeks sometimes.
Yeah, because you can kind of get the as it's going into retrograde and coming out of retrograde. You can
Yeah,
still
and
have
sometimes it moves really quickly through certain signs, and other signs it's just kind of
hangs out, right? So what I do is that like I just kind of track when it's coming, and I'm like, okay, I'm not gonna push through, and very much because with me having so much Virgo energy, which you'll see on the next slide, I feel like I have Mercury energy all the time. I'm speeding through, and Mercury's the fastest planet to be moving. So this is a natural time for me to really follow the nature of the planets, or in this case, Mercury, and really take that time to slow down. I'm all about following nature cycles. And that's one of the ones that really stands out for me and it really does affect me a lot. So I'm like, I'm not going to do a lot of like pushing forward during that time. I'm really going to take a time, reevaluate. And then as soon as Mercury comes out of retrograde, then I'm ready to go again. And so Virgo is an earth sign. We talked about that a little bit already. We will be talking about earth element a lot tonight. Additionally, Virgo is a mutable planet, and this is just kind of the way that it operates. It's really changeable and kind of goes with the flow. The other earth elements are a little bit more rigid. I always feel like Virgo's the like watery earth sign. What do you think about that?
Yeah, when I think about the mutability of Virgo, I think about how it's just like constantly looking for, okay, what else can be tweaked about this? What else can be fixed about that? And I was talking to my wife yesterday about her Virgo-ness, you know, and I'm amazed at how she can, and the way that it kind of came to me in my head was like she understands the cracks in the pavement and she gets into them, and then she figures out what it is about those cracks in the sidewalk or the cracks in the pavement, and she figures out how to fill them and nurture them. And so there's little small things that she'll do for me that nobody else would even like catch on to, because she just knows me so well. She's caught on to all of the details, all of those little tiny itty bitty details, and she's always wondering like, what is it that needs to be done? What else can I do? So that's that mutability. That let's move
Yeah.
around. You know, let's yeah, that shifting.
Well, and it kind of leads into this piece about like the symbolism as being like that virginal piece. You know, people always say devil in the details. I say no, Virgo in the details.
Oh, I totally see that.
Like, no, it's not the devil. It's actually the Virgo in the details.
That's so cute.
Yeah, yeah. So the symbolism of Virgo is virgin. And I'm gonna pause here for a second. This has nothing to do with chastity. Virgo, like virgin, has nothing to do with chastity. That was laid on. But really, what virgin means, and when you look at the virginal goddesses, they're complete and whole unto themselves. So they don't need a counterpart. They are just, they're bomb ass all by themselves. They rock that masculine and feminine energy within themselves. And when I learned that about Virgo, I was like, okay, this makes so much more sense. Also,
That's
yeah, because I was
Mercury
like,
as well.
I don't like this like chastity thing. Like, I really had a hard time. Like, I grew up Catholic, and I was like, I'm either Mother Mary up to this standard or Mary Magdalene, and there's definitely botchedness on both of their stories. So it's like once I like started to learn about other goddesses and other expressions, then I actually really found myself and really came back to the sign of Virgo and being like, okay, I can embrace this piece about the virgin, because the definition has changed. Had nothing to do with chastity, because I'm like, that's not me.
I love
Also,
it.
the other symbol is the maiden. So it's like that really kind of growing into that fertility space, becoming into the mother archetype. So we're starting on that journey of like newness with Virgo.
I like that you said that, because whenever I think about Virgo, Libra, Scorpio, you have three different archetypes. You have the maiden, you have what is it? The maiden, the three, and then the crone is the third one.
Yep, mother's the middle one.
Mother. Woo! Okay, maiden, mother, crone. They kind of go along with the Virgo, Libra, Scorpio archetypes as well. So I think
For
that's kind
sure.
of interesting.
Yeah, so Virgo's just like starting that edge out, and then we move on, like you said. And so like I found, you know, we were just talking about the triple goddess, right? That's maiden, mother, and crone. And
my brain's not working today. What's going on astrologically? So funny.
I love. Yeah, Saturn and Moon conjunction, that I heard was today, and I was like, I don't even want to mess with that. So here I've really just isolated my Virgo placements, and then showing you my elemental breakdown. Because I'm like, you know, sometimes when people look at charts, they're like, what does all this mean? Right? And so I'm just going to share a little bit of why Tony's asked me to come here and talk about Virgo. So you know, one of our mentors, Lisa Grantham, she talked about like before she really got into astrology, she's like, I never really understood horoscopes. She's like, how can all like Virgos have the same thing going on? And I was like, you know what? I had the opposite with reading horoscopes. I always felt really attached to my Virgo-ness. And I was like, it wasn't until she got into astrology, she's like, oh, there's a wide variety of more things to come forward. And for me, knowing that I have 3 Virgo placements means that that's probably why the horoscope stuff meant like a little bit more to me, because I was routing a lot of Virgo energy. So we'll start with the sun sign here. And so that's just really my sense of self. So I also say with having three placements, you may not be in Virgo for you, but you may have three placements somewhere in your chart. I feel like it's like you kind of can't escape all the traits of the thing when you have multiple planets in there. So I kind of have this sense of self with Virgo, but then I also talk like a Virgo and communicate with that Mercury native piece, which is this one right here, and sandwiched in between my Mars and my sun. And so then Mars is that for me, when I look at Mars, you can look at it for different things, but for me, and the way that I look at Mars is really that motivation piece. And so for me, I'm motivated by that wholeness that we were talking about. Like once I found out that completion and that wholeness with the virgin piece, and also perfection. And I'm going to pause here with the perfection thing, because Virgos get a bad rap about like being critical, being hyper analytical, and they have this sense of understanding of what perfection can be. And perfection can be, striving for perfection can be a double-edged sword. It can make you go into paralysis and into a lot of anxiety, and not feeling like anything can ever meet that piece of perfection. But for me, when I tune into perfection, I realize that like that's an inherent thing. I am just perfect. The fact that like I'm, millions of cells and particles and all of this is just this perfect chemistry and perfect just alignment of everything, that I don't have to do anything about that. Like I'm just inherently perfect. And I can continue to strive to do better in the world, to make my world kind of feel whole and complete. So that's kind of where I am with the perfection piece. I'm gonna pause for any questions, comments before we move on.
And feel free to unmute if you have any questions or comments. But I really like that little graph that you have there.
Right, I was like, I'm doing simplicity. So this is my, and we're going to dive a little bit deeper into with my placements being in the second house and in the first house. And then this chart here at the bottom here, this is my elemental breakdown. And so I feel like this is really something that gets overlooked when we look at our chart. I feel like this is the first place that we should look at our chart before we get into the symbolism and all of that. And so ideally, if we were in perfect balance, we'd each have 25% in each of the elements. I have yet to see anybody who has that. I'm kind of close with my air and fire, but I have more leaning in my earth and less in my water. And so we will look at Tony's. Tony's is a little bit reverse of this. And so, what I will say is knowing this, and then also knowing the people around you who have this, because you get to benefit. And Tony kind of talks about this of like working with Virgos, they kind of balance her out and help her in those earth kind of tasks, in the planning, in the attention to details. That's very much earth element kind of tasks. Yeah.
Yes.
So like
I'm a fly by the seat of my pants kind of girl. Like, let's do this. Like details, who cares?
Right. I was like,
Joanna.
oh yeah, I know. I was like, Tony, I reached out mid Leo season. I was like, okay, I want to get the details ironed out. And she's like, girl, whatever, do what you want.
I love it. It's so funny too, because PJ was our Taurus person, and And I had to make sure he knew all of the things. Whereas my Aries person was like, yeah, I got this, like, no problem. It's really cool to work with the different elements, people who
Yes.
are ruled by different elements.
I was like, I got a plan. I was already playing it with in my head, and she's like, just go with the flow. But she definitely took care, which was beautiful, of some administrative tasks, and that's
My
testament to
Mercury
her.
work, it came through, it comes through, it does.
Right.
I'm
So
like
I was like,
the little
girl,
engine
take
that
care of
could.
that. I'll take care of the other half. We got this. You know, we
My poor
divvied up the
Mercury
task.
is like sweating. Help me. She's so airy. Ah.
No, no. I was like, I know what I'm doing. You know. So let's move on to the
Goodness.
next slide. So this is an exercise that I did with one of my business mentors, and she does like business astrology. And she really had us looking at each of our houses and what was there, and kind of create an affirmation or a story. So I'm just going to share this, let this kind of sink in. This is my storytelling piece coming out. So this is how I look at my Virgo placements. I add value, which is that's what the second house is about, as a well-being alchemist and a high priestess who works her magic daily. So that's my Virgo sun. I also add value by being a cosmic translator. This is my Virgo and Mercury, making astrology a practical and grounded experience. I lead, which is first house, by being motivated by creating wholeness for myself and others. So that's my Virgo Mars placement.
Ooh, I love this. This is fun.
Yeah, so I went through my whole chart and did all the different signs. But yeah, she 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 definitely did the set and starters, and I was like, I love this. I love this. And that's a way to kind of then pick what terminology from the sign that you really like, um, to really incorporate and enmesh that like energy of the archetype through. So we're going to look at Tony's placements here. So Tony has her Mercury in Virgo in the 7th house.
That's it.
That's it.
That's my only
Yeah.
planet.
And so you see here in her elemental breakdown, she's got a lot of air, which air is great for communication. Fire is really great for taking action. Water's about that emotional realm. And the earth is kind of that brass tacks. I like to say brass tacks. So with Tony, she could say, 7th house is about partnership. And like, I like to look at that within business and life. Sometimes it's called the house of marriage, but we have all different kinds of partnerships, not just our marriage.
Same time, I think it's super interesting that my wife is a Virgo and my Mercury's in that 7th house. I'm like, it makes sense.
It makes sense. And then there's a definitely you guys are communicating in that house, and you speak the same language, which is really beneficial for your partnership. I like to look at it as in a business sense. So this is a really great for Tony to be looking at ways to be in communication with others. That thing about partnership, that teaching, speaking about astrology. So she's also, I say, a cosmic translator. She really brings that energy of the astrology to people in a very practical way, and ways to use those energies to their benefit. Because it's one thing to like learn this stuff, but it's another thing to actually embody the experience of what the planets are doing.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Nice.
Anybody else? Anybody got any questions?
I do.
Yes.
When you are figuring out those percentages, are you just doing the planets, or are you including the true node and the ascendant? and the moon?
I don't know how this app does this, but typically it's usually just your planetary placements. So there some other apps that I've used, or other websites that I've used, they're only using the planets and then the luminaries, which would be your sun and moon and your rising sign.
Yeah, and that's
Which
something
are
also I'll do a workshop on, because some of the planets and some of the placements are a lot stronger than others. The outer planets tend to be not so, we don't tend to weigh them as much as like an ascendant or the midheaven or um, some of the personal planets. The personal planets you're going to feel a lot stronger than others. So the elemental makeup and the mutability, not the mutability, but the modes. Yeah, I'll do a little thing on that eventually.
yeah, because I haven't done a lot of experience of like calculating it myself. I just let an app do it.
Typically, the nodes we don't
Yeah.
include them in the makeup.
And
The nodes I feel are more. It's more the house that they're in than the element.
that makes sense. And like you said, the personal planets, like looking at mine, I've got very much most of my personal planets in Virgo, other than the moon and the rising.
Right. And some of those outer planets we know because if it's conjunct your sun or your moon, whoo, you feel that more than other
Mhm.
things. So it does. It all depends on the person and how you're experiencing. Yeah.
Yeah. And I'll do a kind of ad for this app that I use for the elemental breakdown. It's called Charts on your phone, and it also gives you the breakdown of like your dominance of what your planets, what your dominant house is, your dominant sign. So I really enjoy using that app. Really helps me when I'm doing chart reading.
Cool. Thanks for sharing that. That's awesome.
You're
Charts.
welcome.
And I love that you're able to isolate one particular planet in there.
Yeah. When I'm done sharing, I'll send the link for that too, because I was able to like just it's a website. I was
know
like,
which one you're using, and I love it.
yeah, but I'll definitely share the links. I love sharing resources. That's a big like Virgo thing too.
Love it. Yes.
I got an app for like everything. So now we're going to talk about the elemental practices and rituals that we can do to help balances. So like for me, like I was sharing that I'm really earth heavy. And so what I feel like when you are really looking at those breakdowns, you really need to look at where you're the heaviest at, because we tend to forget to do stuff in that element because we just kind of come naturally. And then I would also look at the element that you are the least in, because you really don't do a lot of supportive things. Those things don't come naturally to you. Here we have our elements of earth, fire, or air, fire, earth, water, and earth. I just want to say earth. Like we just need a lot of earth. I guess. Here are the symbols of the elements. I love working with symbology too. That definitely comes through in my work. Here, we talked about the air element really being about the mental realm. And so please do share in the comments, or unmute yourself if there's anything else that you like to use to really help calm your air. So if you're feeling really flighty or really feeling like overwhelmed in the mental realm, you can burn some incense or sage. You can use essential oils, whether that's use them topically, ingest them, use a diffuser. I love high vibe music. That's one of the things that I do within my community. We have a music playlist that I add songs to every week to just really keep that vibe high. Getting out in nature and fresh air, uh, bio-natural beats, meditation, writing affirmations, doing journaling or audio recordings. I add the audio recordings because I love the act of journaling because that grounds your air, but I can't write fast enough. So I've started taking up to recording audio recordings, and I use an app that's called Otter, and it translates it into a transcript. So then I have both audio recording and I can go back and read what I was saying. So that's kind of something that I do. Ooh, I'm liking these dancing things, but I would bring those forward, yoga and dancing, into the fire realm. So we'll talk about that next. So what about you, Tony?
Because I also do Nia. I practice Nia, and that it's interesting because it really does, it grounds me, it puts me into my it puts me in my body. It's
Yeah.
interesting too because I'm able to channel a lot easier that way rather than
Mm-hmm.
having everything just kind of up here. I'm able to pull it into my body and feel it on that physical level. So
Right.
yeah, and I do a lot also just coming down to the ground, like physically coming down to the ground and touching the ground. Super powerful.
Yeah.
So I'm with them there. The essential oils, do you suggest any particular types?
What I would say, so I actually do elemental with my essential oils. So for me, when I do an air element, my favorite is lilac. Um, that's kind of very flowery, very airy. Um, it's actually, I didn't know this until Lisa posted this actually, that it's akin to unicorns, which is very much an air element, kind of magical being. So I like to use lilac when it comes to the air element. When it comes to fire, I like any kind of like spicy scents like cinnamon or clove. That really gets me going when it's like I want to be fired up. Um, what do I use for water? Water, I like to use rose because it's very calming. Um, and then earth element, I love frankincense. Frankincense like smells like heaven to me and really does. Or any a tree.
I think bergamot or like ylang ylang. How do you say that?
Yeah, that's
Ylang.
good for water too. Yeah, yeah. Anything that's related to that sacral chakra. Yeah, so the audio app is called Otter, like just like the animal. But I put it in the chat.
Otter.ai, correct?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, you can just download it on your phone.
I also use the Notes app in my phone. But of course I have an Apple product. But yeah, they have a Notes app and you can just talk into it. And I always get things while I'm driving in the car too. I'm like, awesome. I can't write right now.
Right.
So having that record.
So what I will say is that sometimes the elements cross over. So like I said, using the essential oils, like you can use a particular one for that concordance to the element. So it's kind of like air and earth, going back and forth. Joanna says, I use showering to ask the universe to help cleanse negativity. Girl, you're getting ahead of me.
That's beautiful.
We're going to talk about that when we get to the water element. So we're going to maybe we'll move forward. Here we go to the fire element. This is really the realm of inspired action. I got a question first. I missed. Okay.
I'll tell you. It's do you know why it is said that you should journal by handwriting? It hurts my joints and my writing is not really legible. Does this make a difference not to handwrite?
So I would say, first and foremost, follow your own intuition about journaling. Some people like to type, sometimes they like can do that better. Like our mentor, Lisa, she loves to type. She does not like doing handwriting. Part of the reason why handwriting is recommended is it's a magical practice. Like um your hands are like your best magic. There's like a theory about that of like that they're your own wands. Um, and your writing is unique to you. Um, it doesn't really matter if it's legible or not, really, depending on what you're doing with this writing. And so, like, if you really do want to be able to read it, that's why I say use the tech, feel what makes it comfortable. Like for me, I was so resistant to doing the journaling because I'd be thinking so fast and then I get so anxious and worried that I was missing something. Whereas I just put on the recording and I just talk and kind of, I can do that right when I wake up and have this kind of stream of consciousness come through and no filters and no like judgments happening. So that works way better for me. So it's whatever, I always say, whatever works for you. That's my kind of practitioner around magic. It's a little chaotic, but that's okay.
And it's interesting too, that coming from an elementary teacher's point of view too, I know that that connection between the brain and the hand is really, it activates a different part of the brain as well. And so I know that whenever I do journaling, I do my morning pages, and oftentimes, since I'm such an airy person, things will just be up here and I don't even know what's up there quite yet until I start actually putting a pen to paper and I feel earth. I feel that the pen like moving across the paper, and somehow I'm able to actually access a lot of whatever is happening up here and seeing it on the paper, seeing that concrete image, of the scribbles on the paper. It's like, oh, okay. And you can also do access it through art too, doing things like pasting things on a poster board, or doing things like that too, I think.
Mhm, mhm.
Mhm.
And so, yeah, and I think it's whatever you feel comfortable with. I always like give yourself permission to do what you feels good for you. And I love that. And I can completely see where that alignment for you is like, and it makes sense because you have so much air, like to ground it, to really bring it down into the writing, does it for you. Like for me, I've got so much, so much earth. Like now, if I need something, you know, like a to-do list or something like that, I've got to write it out. I can't just speak it out. I got to write it out, type it out, depending on what I'm doing for that. Um, but that's where I have to ground my air because I'll forget things completely. Like I can't keep them in there.
Same. I'll just be like, I had to do what? Who cares?
Right. Girl, if you saw my to-do list.
Oh my gosh, I have a bullet journal. There you go. There's my Mercury in Virgo, but I have a bullet journal and I just keep that going every day. I rewrite list of priorities. I need to do it. Otherwise, things will never, ever get done.
Yeah. I use the technique called Kanban, and it's just like it's all automatic. You can do it manually, but I'm like, I don't know anybody who would do that. But I shift the stuff around, move it around where it needs to go, and start checking the stuff off the list, delete it off when it's done.
And there's a lot of really interesting things, like depending on your elemental makeup. But yeah, there's a lot of air. I want to say like a lot of the technological or the techie uh, like softwares and things that they have out there. Like they have Airtable and Asana and different project management type of apps that you can use as well if you tend to be more airy. But that I need to have the pen on paper, like writing things out, but
Love it.
yeah, it's interesting to think about how you can use apps to help you also manage your life. If you
Hmm.
tend to be a more airy type of person. I think that moving things around on an app or on your iPhone or whatever, that can also help.
Yeah. So yeah. So we're gonna move on to the element of fire. So this is inspired action. This is kind of the movement of the chart. Um, Ways that you can use the element of fire is you can burn a candle, have a bonfire, fire in a fireplace, obviously all very safely. Cooking with fire, creative endeavors like you were talking about. You can paint, you can do whatever to kind of work out some of that and put that intention into the work that you're doing. You can also do what's called flame gazing, looking at the fire and seeing kind of a meditation practice with a flame and seeing if there's anything that comes from looking at the flame. You can commune with the sun. I say safely again, put your sunscreen on. Don't be out too long in the sun without sunscreen. And then this is where I was talking, Jenny, about your legibility doesn't necessarily have to be that great when you maybe want to be burning something. So you maybe just want to really scribble out whatever, it may be a stuck emotion, or it may be some anger or something. You can just write it out. Doesn't matter, because you're going to burn it anyway. So obviously do that safely. Make sure that you deal with the ashes responsibly. You also can burn items depending if that's something you need to do some release work. I see. I love that you're outside, Joanna. Do you have anything to add for the element of fire? So this also, dance is really great for the element of fire.
I agree. With the movement, it's funny too, because you can activate different elements or work with the different elements through movement. Definitely, there's different types of movement that you would do for each of them. I don't know. I'm a movement nerd, so
Right. No, I feel you on that too.
Yeah. For the earth, it would be more just very, just grounded movement coming down to the ground, like a restorative yoga would be great for the earth. When it comes to fire, you're definitely like you're moving around a lot faster,
Yeah, like kind of drumming, dancing,
Yes. You're sweating a lot more, of course.
Yeah, and maybe with that air element, kind of like Tai Chi, real slow.
Tai Chi, Dunkin' dance, it's just inspired. Dunkin' dance is great because you can grab your scarves and you're just kind of waving them around in the air. Woo, it's so yeah, it's fun. Yeah, Dunkin' dance is also related to the water element as well, because there's so much emotional. You're evoking a lot of emotional energy. So sorry.
No, I love it. No, I love it. This is, I was like, I'm just writing a list of things that came inspired to me, but sharing that. And that's the thing, is that, combining elements together is amazing too, to really, you can go more in depth of looking at the elements in that way of like, what does it mean to like combine air and fire together? What does it mean to combine water and earth together? Those are
so interesting.
It's so that's like a more advanced
psychological level with astrology too. It starts to, when you have these aspects to these different elements, that's when things get really, really interesting. I'm taking an aspects course right now, and when we have fire with air, those two are complementary elements, but then you have earth and water, and those are complementary elements. But if you have water and fire, that's when things kind of get a little bit awkward. And so and the way that they express in your chart, it might be, so Jenny's asking about Dunkin' dance. Yes, Isadora Duncan, she danced with scarves and used music to kind of evoke a lot of emotional energy. So yeah, that was really, so yes. We'll continue.
We'll move on to maybe. No, we missed water completely. Here we go. So this is the
Don't miss
emotional
water. It'll get mad.
I mean, for me, this is one of my practices that I, really, really do a lot, is taking a soak in the tub. And for me, I don't have a lot of water. So this is my time when I really just like get into my wateriness. I will cry in the tub. I will access my emotions and let my body just really relax. So this is the emotional realm. You can do like I did for us when we did the blessing of water. You can bless your drinking water. Um, you're gonna have to remind me, who was the scientist who did the water? Do you know, Tony?
He's Japanese. I don't
Yeah,
remember his name.
Emoto, something.
Emoto, yeah.
Oh, okay. Yes.
Yeah,
Awesome.
yeah.
Yeah, that
So you
is
can
so interesting.
so you can supercharge your water, your drinking water. You can bless your bath water, your shower water, kind of like what Joanna said, about, letting that negativity wash away. I always like, when I'm in the shower, think of a golden light washing over me when I take a shower. Swimming in natural waters, creating moon water, setting intentions with your moon water, any kind of emotional expression. I love playing in the rain. That's one of my favorite things, playing in a puddle, taking advantage of like natural water, watering plants. So what I will do when we close circle tonight, I will take this water from this and give it to my plants. It's a ritual that I have started for myself, because I tend to hold a lot of people's emotions. So I'm like, this is the space for the emotional space for the people who come to my offerings. And then I pour it out and release it to my plants, to Mother Earth, to sustain them. And that helps me in the like releasing that, holding space for people. So Jenny asks what moon water is. Moon water is, you typically have like a container, usually glass is the recommended, and you just put purified filtered water in it, and you put it out on the full moon, and you can say a blessing over it, ask for the energies of that zodiac sign. So our next full moon will be in Pisces, correct, Tony? So Pisces
Yes,
is
I believe.
very much about peace and dreaming and just beauty.
Yeah.
There's a lot of beauty in that. I feel like
There
bliss
is a
in
lot of beauty.
Pisces.
I'm excited about that one.
So then maybe that's what you charge your water, and then you can drink it. But our mentor says don't drink moon water that's on water signs, because that can invoke a lot of emotions. But you can drink it.
Unless you need
put
that.
it, unless you need that. Yeah, probably I could do it. But you can put it in your bath water. You can water your plants with it. You can use it for ritual. It's just really great thing to do with that moon water. It's been a practice that I've had many years now. Yeah. Now we're going backwards. Okay, Earth. We'll close with our Earth element here. This is the physical realm. So this encompasses your physical environment, your body. You can work with crystals because those are from the earth. Grounding, or what's called earthing, it really just being out in the grass barefoot is really earthing, or sitting on the ground. I love your comment, Joanna. Joanna says here, I had moon water and my husband found it one day and was like, what's that? I'm like, it's moon water. He's like, okay, cool. Love it. That's so cute. So also getting your hands in the soil, gardening. You can bless your food because that comes from the earth. Bless it, and then you're ingesting that food and those blessings into your body. You can clean, or what I like to call chop wood, is to do, those kind of tasks that just are kind of more mundane, more, especially like for me, I like to do a lot of cleaning when I'm too much in the air realm. Like I'll just do some cleaning to purify my space, do the chopping wood, and then it gives me some time to kind of think things out, rather than just being so caught up in there, doing some movement in my body. You can create an altar or sacred space. One of my favorite activities, and is really restorative for me, is doing what's called forest or wood bathing, and that's just really walking in the woods. I mean, it's just a fancy way to say it. And then finally, you can bury your seeds of intentions, whether that's metaphorically or actually, burying your intentions in the earth.
It's doing a thing. I think it's really interesting too, because my wife also, she has her Mars in Taurus, and which is always fun because she's banging her drums every day when I come home. She has to be pounding on something.
Yeah, and I would say like a dancing that would be really like earth would be just like a lot of like stomp kind of like dance of just really like connecting with the earth.
Absolutely. Just a lot of, yeah, exactly. I like that stomping, feeling your feet really like touching it. But yeah, also like just pulling yourself down to the ground, rolling around on the ground. Super. Oh, it's
Yes.
wonderful. Feels good.
Yeah, I know when I was like an itty bitty, like I would just love to just sit on the ground like all the time. Um, and now I know I was grounding. That's what I was doing. I was grounding energy, but who knew what the hell that meant when I was like 5?
It's so interesting. And that's something that, and it's really sad because ever since COVID started, we can't do this anymore. But I used to take my students who were really kind of dysregulated and just kind of like fuzzy up here. And I could just, you can sense it. You can sense when kids are like, they can't handle, there's a little bit too much fire, a little bit too much air, a little bit too much emotion, even just bringing them down to the ground and breathing with them, like let's read a story, let's and just like really pulling them into to something that it helps to bring them down to the ground. Sometimes even just like placing your hand on their shoulder, like, even though you're not allowed to do that anymore, but placing your hand on their shoulder just grounds them so quickly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, we come full circle with that breath work. That's really can help in all of the elements, because there's different breaths that can be done for each of the elements. If that is something that you're interested in, my YouTube channel, I did a challenge a while ago, but all the videos are housed on there because I feel it's so important. Breath work is so important. So it's called the Take a Breath Challenge, and this will lead us into after we think the elements. You can find where you can find me on YouTube. But yeah, I feel like breath work is just really important. It's really saved, meditation and breath work has really saved my life. And so I feel like everybody should have a breath work practice and have a meditation practice. Even if it's, one of my mentors is like, even if it's 10 minutes a day, it's 10 minutes a day. If you can't find 10 minutes for yourself, then you really need to reevaluate your life. So before I close our space, any more questions, comments, concerns?
I like that. Cleaning is grounding.
Right.
I'm really airy.
Yeah.
I don't clean.
Well, why would you? You have a beautiful Virgo wife to do that for you.
I'm so lucky. I gotta say, I'm so lucky. Oh, wonderful, Sherry. It's been great, helpful. Oh, you're so welcome. Oh, yes. Yeah, it's like we need Virgos in our lives to help us keep things clean.
Virgos are really great at organizing things.
Yeah.
I have to laugh. My oh, Jane has a question, and then I'll.
Jane. Do you want to unmute, Jane? I can.
Hi. Very interesting to hear these things we can do, you know, from all the symbolism, the astrological symbolism. So lovely to be present on your presentation. Yeah, I've been really disorganized. So, but I just was thinking I could have got my chart and had a look, but I think I just have nothing in Virgo, but my Virgo house, I've got Mars, and I don't think there's any aspects, or there's not really many aspects to Mars either, actually. So does Joanna or either of you want to offer any kind of interpretations? And I could tell you something after, you know, rather than telling you before.
So my question, okay, so you were saying that you don't have anything in Virgo except for Mars, right?
Yeah, I've got some Earth, but nothing in Virgo, but in the Virgo house.
Oh, so in
I've
the
got,
sixth house, you
So
have
you're,
Mars.
so
yeah, I've
Mars
got
is in the sixth.
Mars in sixth house. So I
Okay.
have got some connection.
Gotcha.
Okay. When it comes to Virgo, what's going on with your Virgo? You always want to look at the ruling planet. So that would be Mercury. Where's your Mercury?
Mercury,
Yeah.
sure.
Where's your Mercury at?
Mercury's in Aries, and there's a mutual reception between Mercury and Mars.
Oh, that's good.
And yeah, because Mars is in Gemini,
Right.
and
Mars is in Gemini. Oh yeah. Okay. Mars
In the
is in
sixth house.
Gemini in your sixth house.
yeah,
Gotcha. So where's your Virgo?
and
What house is that in?
so my Virgo will be, what house is it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I hadn't really thought of that. I think it might be
Ninth?
actually, maybe I have got something in Virgo. I'm not sure now if my Pluto's just at the very beginning of Virgo. It could be. Virgo is probably my 8th house, I think.
Okay. Okay. So what's going to happen is eighth house topics, which are, taxes and other people's stuff and
Or your own money.
really deep psychological like your deeper operations, like your control panel. I feel like the control panel is almost like the eighth house. And so
and Pluto being there also, which I think it is. I should have got the chart just to, in fact, and my phone, which I could have just got it up on from the internet. I could have just gone and got it, but I was mesmerized by the talk. I didn't want to cut myself out of the talk.
Oh, no.
That's all right.
No, I wish I'd have been organized and thought of it beforehand.
You're fine.
But anyway, it wasn't meant to be that type of, you were just sharing your own charts, and I just thought, well, it's a question, that I could just offer it out to see if you wanted to say anything about, an empty Virgo, but my Virgo may not be empty after all.
Exactly. Whenever you have an empty house, you're looking at the sign. You want to look at the sign and then look at the ruler of that sign to find out what really is happening there. It doesn't mean that nothing's happening there and, oh, I don't have a eighth house, any planets in my eighth house, so nothing's really going on in my eighth house. That's not true. So it's going to have more of a Virgo type of a flavor. And it's going to be ruled by your Mercury, and wherever your Mercury is at, that's going to tell you a little bit more about what's really happening in your eighth house. So if Mercury is conjunct something else, then that can tell you something about your 8th house as well.
Yeah, what the aspects are to the ruler. Yeah, very good point. Yeah, I mean, these kind of talks and the fact that you've put on the astrological talks, even though I studied it pretty deeply, actually, I think it's great for people sharing ideas when there's so much complexity of so many different possibilities. And in fact, that's kind of Virgo. Maybe that's one of my interpretations of Virgo. I thought it was interesting that you said, Tony, said about the kind of different, maybe the airy Mercury compared to, say, the earthy Mercury. And then I may have a tendency to be a bit more like the Gemini, the mercurial type.
Yeah.
But I think, though, that Mercury it's your aspects as well, like you say. That's where more complexity comes in, your aspects. And so, yeah, maybe do some more different kinds of things connected with astrology, different, topics or something, could just carry on, I guess. It was lovely to Joe's one thing just before you shut off. Might as well just say, though, I thought it was lovely what you did with the elements, because you don't know where people are at who are coming in and listening. So it's great that it's very foundational.
It's so important.
And that's what you said about it as well, that you really want to look at that first. It's very, 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 key.
Thank you so much, Jane. Yes, absolutely. Thank you, Joanna. This has been amazing.
You're welcome. Yeah, that's part of how I look at the charts. A lot of the community that come forward don't have that much experience with astrology, and they're hungry for it, but they don't really, like, when people start talking aspect stuff, they're just like glazed over. And I was like, there's a lot that you can just learn about yourself. Just be looking at, learning just what your elemental breakdown is. And that's what I wanted to expose today. And then, like what I do with my talks, I talk very much about the archetype of the sign that like now we're in Virgo season. I talked about Leo season a little bit longer. I was like, I'm over this Cancer stuff. I was like, okay, so Lionsgate's coming. we're gonna do all this Leo stuff. We're doing all this Leo stuff. But that's my rising sign. So I was telling Tony before we came on, I was like, dude, Leo, Virgo, and then my moon's in Libra. So I'm like, these 3 months, I'm rocking my magic.
It's on fire.
Yeah, I'm on fire. Then I'm really grounded, and then I'm back into my air element. So all about connection during that time.
Nice that you know how to use it. I think that is Virgo, isn't it? Like you were saying, applying. Yeah, I did. I had some other thoughts there that really good. Yeah, that you kind of relating to how well I thought that was great that you obviously have an interesting mentor, because what you had, that affirmation, and it's clear that you are actually doing that, serving well, that you know how to. You've obviously thought about how you are serving. And yeah, that was the thought. It just came back, actually, that hopefully it's worthwhile saying this. The thing about using the elements as essential, as a kind of foundation, grounding, starting point, because people don't believe. Some people don't believe at all, or it's a way for people to start to see that, wowee, man, you know, there's something really going on here.
Yeah, those elements are really important.
They get to see the cosmic mirror kind of thing. They're getting to sense it in the first place.
Right.
Yeah, and I think it too, if you start with the elements, people can kind of see that in their own personality. If they're more fiery or more kind of out there and they're, get caught up in their thoughts, if they're really air heavy, or they feel like people talk about this in normal nomenclature of like people are really earth, like really grounded. People have always told me that I'm really down to earth. I'm like, well, yeah, because my chart says so. Like, I know that all along. But yeah, or you have a really fiery personality. Like, we already talk about those things. And I think sometimes when we go with those secular words that we already are using and then just show in the astrology, then I think we can kind of convert people to be like, oh, there might be actually something to this, because there are people who just are like, it's hocus pocus,
Yeah, and that's exactly what each of the signs are. It's not necessarily, oh, it's Virgo and it's Libra, and like the labels don't necessarily describe the very, very basic element of it, which is, it's the elements and it's the modes. So I don't
and
know.
they all have a little different flavor of how they show up when the modes match with those elements, right?
Right.
And
Each of
that's
the
why
elements and the modes, that's exactly what makes up a sign. So yeah, Scorpio, you've got the fixed water, and then they all have their own flavor.
yes, emotional regulation, big thing for me. The big thing for me too. I love that keyword. So what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna thank the elements, and then we can have a little bit more ways for you to figure out how to connect with me and all that. So
Yes.
we're just gonna ground down into Mother Earth again. Check those chords. All right. So we will do the reverse of how we set this up. So we're going to start in the north and give deep gratitude to that element of earth and helping us to learn ways of how to ground ourselves, to really help change our physical environment, our physical realm, our physical body, and those inspirations to making our world a better place. The direction of the north and the element of earth. We move on to the direction of the west and the element of water. Thank you for helping us to learn ways to help regulate our emotions, to support our emotional bodies, our emotional realm. Move on to the south and the element of fire. Thank you for all your support, inspired actions, in ways really incorporate these elements into our daily lives to help embody, help us to move through this life. Thank you. Move on to the direction of the east and the element of air, the mental realm, the mental body. Thank you for all of the beautiful information that's come through today. May those who are on this call, whether live or on the replay, may they take these new thoughts, these new learnings, and really incorporate them into understanding and then into wisdom. Thank you. Then we'll call on the above, Creator Source Light. I take deep gratitude of Virgo for inspiring us in all her Virgo ways, all her Virgo traits, helping us to see where we may need to grow in our Virgo-ness, or where we have the gift of Virgo on us. Thank you, Virgo. Thank you to Grandmother Moon and to Mother Mary for supporting us from above, all the angels and celestial supports. Thank you. Thank you to Mercury also for coming through, supporting us in communication and giving us great tech tricks. Call on Mother Earth, our deep grounding. We say thank you to her for holding down from below, cradling us in her bosom. Call and center the movement of life, Great Spirit, Holy Spirit, breath of life in the center. We ask that Archangel Metatron dissolve this cube and any of the supports, any of the elements, any of the directions would like to stay, may they stay. If they may be released, if they must go. Then I ask as my deep prayer that everyone on this call and on the replay, may they take the healing messages and wisdom from this session throughout the rest of their day, week, month, year, and lifetime. So it is, so it is. So it be, so it be. It is done, it is done, it is done. All right. Here are ways to keep in touch with me. This is my email address. You can take a screenshot, a picture of this. I'll leave that up for a
I'll
moment.
also be sending all of this out in an email to everybody, and yeah, and I'll put it in the Facebook group as well.
So love that. Love that you're going to do those administrative.
And feel free to pop in there and do and say a thing or post whatever it is that you want to post as well.
Yeah, please do. If you post in the group and you want to tag me, I'm definitely part of Tony's community. If there's anything that comes up afterwards, please do. But so email, business page. Like I said, I have the free Facebook group where I do my tea times at 1 p.m. on Tuesdays. I have an Instagram account and my YouTube. Like I said, you can find my playlist there. Any more questions before we move on to my offer, and then we're done for the evening, unless Tony's got anything more.
I'm good. Yeah, thank you so much for all of this. This has been amazing. Questions? You can unmute yourself if you have any questions. Okay, I think we're good. Thanks. Thanks.
All right.
Go ahead,
So
Joanna.
I'm gonna give you my offer. So with Beautifully Chaotic Mamas with Joanna Stuffle presents 9-9 Portal, a journey to wholeness and completion. So I had a really successful 8-8. People may have heard about 8-8. I just really love numerology too. This is part of my expression. We go through these portals every year. Each month has one. February has two. But what I'll say is that we all go through this one portal that we all like celebrate and really are part of, which is 1/1, which is the new year. So we celebrate that time and that space, and there's a theme that comes with that, like new beginnings. That's what the energy of 1 is. So this workshop will bring you the energy of 9. 9 is all about wholeness and completion. It's happening during Virgo season. It's that 9th month here in September. So what I do in this session is I do a teaching. I really love to bring forward goddess energy. We'll talk about Virgo more. We will be using the energy of Athena in our meditation. We also will be doing some symbolism, talking about the numerology of 9. And this workshop will be taking place on September 9th, 2021. The workshop will begin at 9 a.m. The cost is $10. And then I have the link to paste in the comments for you to sign up. What else? Also replay if you can't make it. I do have an international community and everybody can't come at the time. But I really wanted to bring that energy of 9 again with the time. Any questions about that?
Awesome. I know some folks have got to be excited about that. That's exciting. I'm
Yeah.
interested. This is super cool.
Come on, sign on, girl. We had
Woohoo!
so much fun with Lionsgate. You know, everybody was talking about Lionsgate in the Astro community, and we had a really special one this year because the new moon fell on it. But I'm like, I'm gonna rock this 9 energy.
Yeah.
But yeah, I
Oh,
felt like
well,
it's
Virgo.
time. Virgo. Yeah. So we'll be talking about Athena, which is a virginal goddess. And she has some beautiful messages. So what we do in the workshop is it's an hour and a half long. So we do roughly about an hour of teaching and being introduced to the energies that we'll be calling into the meditation. And then I'll walk you through a meditation. It's a very layered experience. I love to work with frequencies. We'll be doing 99 hertz when we do the meditation. Yeah, just it's a beautiful experience. Eastern. Sorry, I did not put that on there.
Okay, so I'll
Good
make a note of
question.
that too. 9 a.m. Eastern.
Yeah.
Very cool. Thank you so much, Joanna. Thank you,
You're
guys.
welcome.
Thank you all for coming. I'm super glad we did this. This has been great.
Yes.
And I'll be sending out the replay very, very shortly. Great.
Oh, thank you so much for forwarding that along, Jenny.
Yeah. This will be and yeah, feel free to post this in the group as well, Joanna.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Yep.
All right. Thank you guys. All right. Well,